Hey, welcome to WagerTalk TV. Scott Spreitzer here with Matt Holt, of course, VP of CGT Sportsbooks here in Las Vegas. And got a lot to talk about when it comes to the NBA, Matt. That's what we want to talk about in this particular video because we've seen a whole lot of movement happening out west. One team in particular, that being the Houston Rockets. Going to get to them in just a second. But I wanted to start off by saying I've heard some of the sports books, and this might surprise people a little bit because they're the favorite, overwhelming favorite since day one this season. But some of the sports books, and maybe your own CGT, that you're rooting for the Golden State Warriors to win the NBA championship this year.
Yeah, because they started out such a big favorite, a monumental favorite this year, people aren't going to tie their money up for an entire season at a minus 300 price, minus 200. So we didn't get as much Golden State Warrior action as we normally would preseason because people just don't want to tie their money up that long for that type of investment. Sure. And at this point, obviously, the Houston Rockets on the 13-game win streak and some of the moves that people built in the offseason, I think, at least created the stigma or perception that there was a little bit more of a balance or at least a few more teams that could win this year, maybe in years past with the Celtics making such good moves. The Rockets, Oklahoma City Thunder. It looks like, teams were trying to build a few super teams to compete with Golden State, and at that price, you just didn't didn't see people trying to make that same long-term investment.
Yeah, and the people, the public who's looking, they always want to make a big bang for less money.
Sure.
They're not obviously going to lay $3 with anybody. The Houston Rockets, let's talk about them for just a second. The additions that they made in the offseason, grabbing Chris Paul to join up with James Harden. Everybody wondered about, are they going to be able to handle being on the floor, sharing time, sharing spotlight, sharing the basketball? Boy, has it worked out well. And I'm going to give some numbers on why this team right now is or has the all-time best offensive efficiency rating in the NBA as of right now, as we speak. I'll give those numbers in a moment. But I know a lot of books have really had to adjust their prices on the Rockets, being anywhere from 15 to 20 to 1 before the season. Some down to 2 to 1. I think you guys have them at 5 to 2 right now.
Yep. Yeah, 2.5 to 1 at our place. And look, the Rockets, the 13-game win streak is hard to ignore at this point. And this team seems really motivated to get that #1 seed. And what we're seeing on a lot of these teams is a really big home and away disparity this year, especially in the Western Conference. So that #1 seed and home court advantage may start to be really critical in the Western Conference. Houston still hasn't matched up the best with Golden State on a matchup game-by-game basis. But, man, they've looked great and unbelievable at home this year. 24-6 at home this season. So certainly seems like a team poised to give the Golden State a run.
I think while Golden State, you might see them resting a star or two because they got so many. You might see them resting a couple of stars in games throughout the month of March. I don't think you're going to see this out of Houston because of that. They've got such a great home court advantage that even Golden State has, but Golden State knows they can win anywhere, that I don't think you're going to see Houston resting guys. They want to keep winning basketball games and get that home court advantage throughout the Western Conference playoffs. Couple of notes on the Houston Rockets, guys, and you can check this out. ESPN had a great article, ESPN.com the other day, basketballreference.com has a really cool formula, and basically what they do is they calculate possessions. And with that, the Rockets edge out the Golden State Warriors for the most efficient offense in NBA history, ahead of the 86-87 LA Lakers, which won the championship that year, by the way. The Rockets have an efficiency of 115.9 in games in which Harden and Chris have both played this season. Chris Paul. That's 9.3% better than league average. That's ridiculous. That tops even the 03-04 Dallas Mavericks for best ever as far as the percentage better than league average. The one tough thing about Houston, though, that I keep talking about with people, they got to keep that defense going, man, because right now defensive efficiency, they're like 8th or 9th in the league. These teams that had all these great offensive efficiency numbers over the years, if you look at like the last 8 teams that have been top of the charts in offensive efficiency, only 2 have gone on, basically to the NBA Finals. None of them win if they're outside the top 10 on defense. Yeah. So they've got to continue to focus on the defensive end. Otherwise, they are going to struggle when they play the elites in the West.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, it looks like it's a 2-team race now in the West, especially with Jimmy Butler out so long for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Look, this is Houston and Golden State. It's actually a change this year where it's actually the East where we might see the more parity. Yeah. We're used to seeing the West as being the league that we're supposed to have the parity. We're supposed to have those rivalries, and maybe someone can give a run to Golden State. But it's actually the East this year, whether it can be Toronto, Boston, or Washington, that can actually usurp the Cleveland Cavaliers and go on to the NBA championship.
And with Washington, by the way, playing well and actually improving their lot with John Wall out, he comes back now. He was supposed to be out 6 to 8 weeks. He'll be back in the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
He probably wouldn't have played this season if they dropped in the playoff standings and couldn't play without him. I'm worried about our Boston Celtics. I don't think this is the year yet. Get Gordon Hayward back for a year next year along with Kyrie Irving. We got a better shot. Quickly, do you like Toronto in a 7-game set against Cleveland if they've got home court advantage going into that series?
Well, we talked about scoring and scoring efficiency. 112 points per game for the Toronto Raptors right now. DeMar DeRozan playing like an MVP, maybe the most valuable player in the Eastern Conference this year. You have to like what they're doing, and they have dominated conference foes, 26-8 against conference foes this year. So they've taken care of business in the East when they play East teams. 25-5 at home for Toronto. When they play at home against an Eastern Conference foe, forget it. I mean, that's basically a lock win.
Put you on a spot for just a second. If it's Toronto and Cleveland in the Eastern Conference Finals and Toronto has home court advantage, what's the series price?
Probably about Cleveland minus 130.
Yeah. Got to still make them a short favorite because they're going to get all the action.
I mean, they're an even money favorite right now still to win the East. Plus 110 to win the East. You can get Toronto at 2.5 to 1. So despite the records right now, despite the fact that the Cavs are sitting currently in the 3 seed and Toronto would have home court, it's still the Cavs getting all the love.
Cavs got to get that defensive efficiency.
They're our biggest liability right now
the
to
Cavaliers?
win the title. Yeah.
Are they really? Wow.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe by now Toronto's crept up on them a little bit, but apparently not. So good stuff. Matt Holt, Vice President, Business Development at CGT Sportsbooks in Las Vegas. Don't forget, if you would like a 7-day package from any of your favorite handicappers on WagerTalk.com, you can get it 7 days for $99. All sports, all plays, 7 days, $99. Stick around. We got more. I'm Scott. He's Matt. We are WagerTalk TV.